Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In the previous video we have seen insertion of elements inside the array. We also have seen different cases through which we can insert an element, a section or an entire array to an existing array. Now it's time to move on to another type of operation which we can perform on array, which is nothing but updation. So in this video we will be seeing how to update elements or a particular part inside an existing array. So let's have a look. Before that, I want to clear one thing, that the basic difference between insertion and updation is that in updation we replace a particular element. Now let's have a look at the different cases that we can perform when it comes to updation. So we can update a single element inside the array, we can update a particular section or a part inside the array, and we can update an entire array. For example, we can perform increment or decrement operation on that particular array. So let's have a look at them one by one. So let's start with the first case in which we are supposed to update a single element inside the array. So here we have taken an example of an array which is an existing array. This array is of 5 elements whose index starts from 0 and ends at 4. Now let's take an element which is to be updated inside the array at a position. So let's consider this element 45, which is to be updated inside the array at position 2, means at index number 2. So as you can see the arrow says that we need to place the element at this particular position. So it's very easy, right? You just have to place the element at the existing position, making sure that the element which is present at index 2 will no longer be present at that particular position. So here you can see that we have replaced the element 84 with the new element 45, and thus we can perform the updation operation of a single element inside the array. Now let's implement this in Python language. So now we are in the code editor, and for updating elements inside the array we require an array. So for that we need to import the library, which is an inbuilt library in Python which is named as array. In the previous video we have discussed this in detail, how to create arrays in different ways in Python language. If you have not watched it yet, then you can go and click at the I button. You can find out the previous videos. Now moving forward, we need to create an array which I'll be storing in the AR variable. Now since we have created an alias of the library array in the variable ARR, so I'm calling the array function from that particular alias. And let's take an example of integer array. So if you remember, we need to first write the type code of it, which is nothing but I. Make sure you write I in quotes, and then the second argument will be the list of elements. Now here, instead of defining the list in a naive way, we will be using a range function, which is an inbuilt function in Python language. We have not discussed about range function in detail, but for now just remember that range function takes some parameters. In a basic term, it takes two parameters. The first parameter is the start range and the second parameter is the end range. So here I am going to define a range from 1 to 11. Make sure that the second parameter 11 will be exclusive. So the list will be created automatically, which will contain the element from 1 till 10. It will not take 11 because 11 is exclusive. Range function takes the third parameter also, which defines the step size. I want you to explore more about the range function and put it in the comment section. Now before updating the elements, the first task is always to access that particular position in which the element is present and which is to be updated. Now here, for accessing the elements inside the array, we are going to use the concept of slicing. So here in Python language, we can access the element. If it's a single element, then we need to only write that particular index inside the square bracket, sticking to the variable in which the array is there. So here in our case, let's access the element at 4th position, which has an index 3. So AR of 3rd position will give us the element which is located at the 4th position. Next, we need to replace that particular element. So whenever we are going to update a particular element, we have to perform two tasks. First, we need to access it, and then we need to replace it with the new element. First task is already done. Now it's time to do the next task, which is nothing but replacement. So let's replace this element which is present at index 3 with the new element which is 100. So therefore AR of 3 will now be assigned a new value of 100. So now let's print the array. So you can see that the element which was present at index 3, which was nothing but 4, is now successfully replaced with the new element which is 100. So this is one way in which you can replace a particular element or update elements inside the array. Now let's take one more example in which we need to update a new array which is stored in the variable y. So let's consider this array of 5 elements, and let's say we need to update this particular array with the new element. Let's say we need to update the element which is located at position 2, which is 43, with the new element 100. So how to access it? We can access it with the help of y square bracket 2, and then we can assign the value 100 to it, and then we can execute the cell. So you can clearly see that the array has got updated. Now that we have seen how to update a particular element inside the array, it's time to go a step ahead and learn how to update a particular section or a part inside the array. So let's consider an example in which we have taken an array of 4 elements, and we are going to update a section into it with a new section which is given here. So the section contains two elements, 612 and 785, and we are supposed to replace it with the existing section which is located at index 1. So always make sure whenever you are going to update a particular section, you need to first iterate over that section, and one by one you need to update that with the existing elements. So let's take the first element in the section and update it with the concerned position. Here our concerned position is index 1. So we are updating the new element which is from the section at that particular position 1. Now talking about the another element inside the section which is 785, we need to place it immediately after the previous element which we have replaced from the section inside the array. So this is how you can replace entire section into existing array. Now let's have a look how to implement it in Python language. This type of question of updating a particular section or a part inside the array is widely asked in many interviews. So make sure you observe this particular video very carefully. So now we will define an array. So for that we need to import the library array. We'll again import that and store it in the variable a through the usage of alias. Now we are going to define an array inside the variable arr. Now let's define the same array that we have discussed in the previous section. So the array consists of the elements starting from 1 and ending at 10. We have used range function over here to create the array. So now let's also create a section which we need to replace. So section will also be an array of some elements. So let's take a section of 3 elements which will be integers only. So let's define the elements inside the square bracket. The elements are as follows: 12, 34 and 45. we need to update this section of elements inside the array. Let's say that we need to update the element 4, 5, 6 with the new section 12, 34 and 45. So 4 is located at the index 3. So we are supposed to work on index 3. So let's define a new variable index. So we will define the value 3 to that particular index variable. So for updating a range of elements, we need to use a looping statement. So I am here using a for loop. So for I in range, the length of the array, we are going to iterate over the array, and we need to iterate until we get the index value. So we will use an if condition inside the for loop. So if the I equals to the index variable, that means the I equals to index 3, then we will execute the following statements. And what we will execute? We will now, once it reaches at that particular index position, we will now iterate through the section. So for j, I am taking a new variable over here, j in range, the length of the section, we are going through all the elements one by one from the section, and then we are going to replace the current element inside the existing array with the element inside the section. So array of I will contain the current element of the counter, and we are going to replace it with the section of j, which means the current element of the section. So 12 will be replaced with the element 4. Now similarly we need to update the other elements also. So for that we need to increment the counter of I. So we will write I equals I plus 1. So in this case the counter for I will increase, which will now point to 5, and 5 will be replaced with the new or the another variable inside the section. So this is how you can create the logic for updating a section of elements inside the array. And after printing the new array, you can see that the section is now inside the new array. So this is how you can update a section inside the array. So I hope that you have got the logic behind building this code. If you have any queries, then you can put it in the comment section. So moving forward, till now we have seen two different cases. One is to update a single element inside the array, and second is to update a section inside the array. Now it's time to see how we can update the entire array in one go. So examples of this are incrementing the entire array by a particular value or decrementing it. So let's take an example of array of 4 elements, and let's say that we need to increment this particular array by one value. So the steps for it is very simple. You need to first iterate over the array. So we are at first position now, and we have incremented the value. Once you increment the value, then you need to move a position ahead and again increment the value. So 7 will now be 8. Similarly, moving ahead, we will now be at the next index, which is 2. The value over it is 34. Increment it and it becomes 35. Similarly, move ahead, and now the value 49 will be 50 when incremented by 1. So this is how you can increment the entire array. Now let's write the logic for it in Python language. So here we have considered an array of 4 elements which have a type integer. The elements are 10, 7, 34 and 49, and we have stored it in the variable arr. So let's print this. Now we need to write the logic for incrementing all of these elements inside the array by 1. So for that we need to iterate over it. So for that we are using a for loop. So for I in range, the length of the array, we are supposed to iterate through all the elements. The variable I will store the current index of the element, and the arr of I will tell the current element. Now once we reach a current element, we need to increment it by 1. You can use plus equal to 1, or you can use array of I equal to array of I plus 1 separately. Both of them works the same. So this code will increment every single element inside the array by 1 value. Similarly, you can write the logic for decrementing by any value or incrementing by any other value. So you can see that after printing the new array, all the elements inside the previous array are now incremented by 1. So far, we have seen all the cases through which we can update anything inside the array. So first, we have seen how to update an element inside the array. We have seen the animations of it, as well as we have also implemented it in Python language. Next, we have seen how to update a section. First, we need to iterate over it, and then once we reach a particular index, then we can start updating it. We have also seen its implementation. Next, we have seen how to update an entire array. We have seen an increment operation with an example in Python language. I hope you have got all of this. In the upcoming video, we will be looking into another kind of operation that can be performed on arrays. Stay tuned for that, and for more such videos, like, share and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you.